All right, everyone. So let's begin. Laying upon our mats. Lift your head lengthening the back of your neck.
Oh man.
Widening your shoulder blades, elbows out. And take a breath or two, breathing down into the pelvis. And letting yourself just take a moment to settle into your body. Just breathing. And as your chest expands with the breath, your belly releasing it and letting your spine infuse to the mat. Let's take a moment to just scan our body. You can begin by observing where you feel the energy in your body. What parts do you feel awake to your awareness? And what parts are sort of not present? You might take a moment and image your body laying on the mat. Parts are really clear. And where are you not so clear?
I can't hear a thing. She's
And then allowing yourself to begin to feel the connection of your heels to the mat. Up the heel, touching.
can't hear a thing she's saying.
What part of the calves? And from that, see if you can sense how much space is between your heels, your knees.
This is really hard to hear.
Can you image the angle of your feet?
I can't hear anything she's saying.
And allowing yourself to allow your awareness to travel upward. You might also feel the pelvis is connected. Top of your sacrum resting against the mat, or is it catching up a little? You have more weight on one side of the pelvis than the other. And if so, which side is it? And see if you could also trace it down the leg on the same side. Notice the big differences between the two sides. How it's making contact with the floor, ankle of the leg. See if you can also sense how much space is between your lower back and the neck. And you can feel it. Your fingers checking both sides. Do you have more weight on one side of the spine, on the erector spinae? Just notice. And you might have a pattern where everything is shifting to one side. Right side of the spine, for example, the right buttock, the right leg. Or you might have a diagonal going where the right side is got more weight on the lower part, and then you somehow are shifting onto the left side in the rib cage. We often do that. It's a way to sort of correct ourselves. We just notice whatever's true for you. Allowing your awareness to travel upward. Imaging your spine as it rises up toward the head. Does it seem to be going straight up? Is it bending to one side or the other? as you get above the shoulder blades toward where the upper spine joins the neck. The upper spine resting on the mat, or is it being dragged up by the curve of the neck? Any sense how much space there is behind your neck and the mat, and whether or not that the top one or two vertebrae of the rib cage are being pulled off the floor. And then check it out, feel it with your fingers. And allow yourself to keep your elbows out, palms flat, forearms more or less parallel. And maybe just slide your shoulders down a tiny bit just to make a little more room for your neck. And feel what part of your head is resting on the mat. If it's more toward the crown of the head, again, pick up your head and move it down a bit toward the base of the skull. Not so much that you feel tension in your throat, but enough that your neck is a little longer. And let's bring our knees up so our feet are standing. Using your thigh muscles, lift your pelvis off the mat and gently wrap it. And if you'd like, you could sway a little to side, wrapping the right erectors, the right buttock, the left buttock. And also play with maybe moving buttocks closer to your heels, just stretching out the lower back a little before we begin to work with it. And set it down. Again, lengthen in your neck. And before we begin with the pelvis, let's just do a tiny bit of work with the upper back so that we can loosen it up. And so you can begin by rolling your head to the right, any amount that feels good. Then roll back, cross the back of the head to the left. Pay close attention. Do you have the same range, or is it easier on one side than the other? Stop and lengthen your neck. And now maybe adjust your shoulders again so the shoulder blades can really relax into the mat. And leading with the eyes and the tongue, let your head roll right, your head left, going from side to side, lightly and easily. As you're doing that, you can let your eyes now and your tongue just relax and do whatever, but imagine that you're turning from the very top of your head. Then you come back down a little more and imagine you're leading with the tip of your nose. As if you were drawing a semicircle in your space with the tip of your nose. And observe what part of the back of your head are you rolling across now. Leading with your chin. And then just explore what feels best to you. Notice how the neck muscles are affected by moving from different places. observe the weight shifts from shoulder blade to shoulder blade. And see how far down you can sense the movement in the upper back. And do that. Your head to the middle, relax for a moment. Maybe adjusting your neck, making it a little longer. And let your arms reach up in the air, palms facing each other, as if you were holding a beach ball. And using the muscles on the bottom of the shoulder blade, the lower traps, the lats, push the shoulder blades up to the ceiling, and then release and let them drop. Do that again, just lightly reaching up and dropping, seeing if you can sense and feel the way the soft tissue from the medial border of your shoulder blade to the spine stretches. And then let your hands pull apart a little wider so that you can kind of feel more the outer edge of the shoulder blade and sense those soft tissue connections between the outer edge of your shoulder blade and the upper arm. It's a little more subtle. And stop holding your elbows, grasping your forearms, your elbows, whatever's easy. Let your head and arms go right, bringing the right elbow to the mat and up and over, rolling across the space between the shoulder blades, left elbow touching the mat. Imaging the way the head, the neck, even the upper spine goes from side to side a little. Where the shoulder blades slide across the back of the rib cage.
Hello? Yes, okay, thanks. You can go on up. Thank you. Doors open. Okay.
Then stop that. Next time you're in the middle, let your arms again come straight up in the air. But now bring the hands together, palms together as if you were praying and letting both arms go over to the right. Let the left palm slide down your inner arm until you drop the back of the right hand onto the floor. And up, hands together over to the left, right hand sliding down the left inner arm. And as you do that, see if you can sense and feel movements in the shoulder blades, the upper spine, the neck. Sensing the space between the shoulder blades. Bottom of the shoulder blades, that part of the neck, spine. Let your arms float back down, elbows out, palms flat, shoulders relaxing away from the head, neck, arm. Now let's turn to the pelvis. So let's begin by making sure our feet are hip distance apart. And then let both knees go to the right, and then up and over to the left, touching the floor as you go from side to side if you can without strain. Feeling the way the lower spine is now turning. If it feels good to you, you can let your head go with the movement. Feel the way the spinal cord stretches, the vertebra of the lumbar spine pulling apart ever so slightly. And shift your awareness down to the sacrum and to the soft tissue on either side of the sacrum. And feel yourself rolling across that. Notice how shifting your consciousness changes the movement. So, for example, if you shift back to more like the sensation in the middle of the lumbar spine, how does the movement feel? Feel that. And then shift it back down to the sacrum. What does your body do to adjust to that shift in awareness? Just see if you can notice. Go back and forth a few times if you need to get a clearer picture of it. Come back to the middle and stop. Lift your head, lengthening your neck, making sure your elbows are wide. And let's begin to think about the connections between the legs and the pelvis. So you have your adductors, those muscles of the inner thigh, and they come up and they hook on to that little tiny loop of bone at the bottom of the pelvis. If you put your hand under your butt, you can feel it, the sits bones. And then if you trace upward a little, right toward the tailbone, that's one part of the loop. And if you trace from the midpoint outward toward the hip, that's the other side. On the inner side, the ischial ramus, your adductors, those inner thigh muscles are hooking on. And then below the knee, they hook on to the tibia, the shin bone, just below the knee. And so they're important in determining the position of the knee in space. On the very back, where the tip of the sits bone is, and along the outer side are the hamstrings. So just thinking about that, tip your tailbone up, rolling up to the top limb of the sacrum. And then tip it back down, rolling down, letting the lower back come up off the mat a little, maybe even the bottom of the rib cage, and then roll back up. And try to sense right around the ischial tuberosities. In the hamstrings. What are you feeling in the adductors? Next time you're at the very top where the sacrum is, pause for a second and really sense those inner thigh muscles, those adductors. sense the way the hamstring in this position is shortened and release. Pull slowly back down, tipping the tailbone down and pause. And again, sense. Do that a few times, going back and forth, trying to really sense into those two muscle groups. When you're all the way down at the bottom with your pelvis tipping down, tailbone down, really sense right around the tailbone, all that soft tissue, which you're really resting your weight on at the moment. And then release and roll back up. Down. And stop. Let your right leg come up off the mat. Placing your hand on your right knee. Gently draw it in toward your chest, in the amount that feels good. And sense and feel the inner thigh muscles, the adductors, and also in this position, the hamstring. And then keeping your knee where it is, maybe clasping it with both hands gently. Press the tailbone down, sensing and feeling into those connections on the ischial ramus and the ischial tuberosities. And release, letting yourself come back up, low back flat, and then press down and release. Do that a number of times, really trying to get more and more awareness how the back of the leg and the inner leg connected to the pelvis. Notice as you're doing this whether or not you have a tendency to let your knees sort of angle to the side. If so, try to pull it so it's more straight in toward the rib cage, and notice any difference that that might create. Then you can also angle the knee out toward the side a little and press down. You'll probably feel this more in the adductors. And release, press down. Do that a number of times, just really feeling what that does. And then you can stop and then gently pull the knee toward the chest, but more in to the left side and press down. You're going to feel that more in the outer hamstrings, whereas the inner thigh muscles, the adductors, will probably be quite passive. Just notice. You can stop and release your knee. Let your foot come back to the floor using your thigh muscles. Lift your lower spine and drop it. Set it back down. Elbows out and floor. Slide your right leg out and gently wrap the back of the knee. Stop and let go, let the foot go. And sense into the inner thigh. You might also sense the muscles in the buttock, the deep lateral rotators. Those are the muscles that pull your foot out to the outside. Now flex your foot, and then resting on the back of your heel, keeping your foot flexed, roll to the outside and sense into those deep lateral rotators. Roll back to the middle, and roll out, and back to the middle. Do that. You might also sense the IT band, that thickened band of fascia that runs on the side of the leg and stabilizes the femur. What do you feel in the knee? The outer knee, the inner knee. And then the next time that you're back in the middle, roll in toward the midline, any amount, and then back to the middle. Roll inward and back. And again, sense now you can really sense the inner thigh. And you can probably also sense how the lateral rotators have to stretch a little as you roll inward. A clear picture for yourself, if you can, how as the inner thigh muscles shorten to pull the knee inward, the lateral rotators have to stretch. And as the knee begins to roll back toward the middle, the lateral rotators begin to tighten a bit, and the inner thigh has to stretch. And then make the movement bigger, keeping your foot flexed, rolling inward to the middle and all the way outward, really trying to sense and feel those two groups and the way they position your knee and your upper leg bone in space. Notice this as well if you can. The more you flex your foot, pressing the back of the heel into the mat, it changes the movement. And if you relax your foot so that you're just rolling across the heel with your foot completely relaxed, it's different. See if you can feel that. Go back and forth. And I might invite you to consider, if you're a person who has really stiff ankles, that's going to affect this movement quite a bit. Whereas if you release the foot and it's very relaxed, that changes things, doesn't it? Just notice. You might also notice if you really flex the foot quite a bit and you roll across the heel, and it sort of drags the thigh muscles, the quadriceps, into that movement, especially as you're rolling inward or medially toward the midline. And stop and relax, letting the leg go. And draw the knee back up. Using your thigh muscles, lift your lower spine, drop it, releasing any tension. Set it back down and slide the left leg out while we begin to repeat that. So start by just releasing the back of the knee. As you wrap, try to image all those muscles in the back of the leg, the hamstrings, the calf muscles, just getting looser and longer. So there's, the knee joint is more spacious. And then stop and relax, letting the leg go. Flexing the foot and coming onto the back of the heel, keeping your foot flexed. Begin by rolling medially, rolling inward, and then back to the middle, and inward, and back to the middle. And again, sense into the inner thigh muscles. Also, sense around the tailbone. What's happening there? Sense the lateral rotators, those deep muscles. And then make the movement bigger now. Coming back to the middle, actually. Roll outward and then just to the middle and roll outward, sensing into the IT band, the lateral rotators, the inner thigh muscles. Really trying to get a good fix on the way those things work in what we call antagonistic ways. One muscle group opposing the other. Which is easier for you? Rolling inward or outward? Now make the movement more general, rolling across the heel, all the way in, all the way out. Doing that for maybe 5 or 6 movements. Foot flexed. You could try deep flex. And maybe a slightly smaller flex. And then release the foot all together. So it's relaxed and loose. So see what that's like. Make sure you're rolling all the way out if you can, as far as you can. And all the way in. Depending on how your leg muscles are arranged, you may not have a lot of inward rotation, or you might not have a lot of lateral rotation. Just notice whatever's true for you. For just a moment as you're making this movement, place your fingertips on the very front of the pelvis, the bony protrusion there that we call the iliac. What's that called? Well, the crest is really the side. But anyway, just putting your fingers there, right where it sort of turns to form the pelvic bowl. And feel the way the pelvis is affected by the movement. As you roll inward, can you feel the way the right ischial, whatever that is, flexes inward, narrowing the pelvis? As you roll outward, it opens. What's interesting about that is if you're one of those people where your thighs are always rolling inward, your pelvis will narrow in the front, and it may be a little lax in the back, which of course will create problems for your SI joint. If you're one of those people who are always sort of flexed outward, reverse will be true. A few more movements, just seeing if you can notice that. And then you can stop, letting the leg go, relaxing the butt muscles. Then let's bring the foot back up, using your thigh muscles. Lift your lower spine, wrapping the back of the lumbar spine top of the sacrum, and middle of the sacrum, and maybe even down toward the tailbone. And set it down. Lift your head, lengthening the back of the neck. Joseph, which knee is bugging you? All right. Well,
Right knee, right knee.
Okay, let's start with the right knee. So,
Okay. Hey, we didn't, Althea, we didn't do the leg press up on the right side. We didn't do this.
Unmute so people don't hear you.
You did this on the left side or the right side, but you didn't do this on the left side.
you're right. Sorry about that, you guys. Okay, so bring your left knee toward your, you mean this one, right? Left knee.
Yeah, but we did the right one, not the left one.
All right. So pull your left knee in toward your chest and just gently holding it. Press the tailbone down and then release. Rolling down the sacrum as you press down and feeling again those attachments right on the ischial tuberosities, the ischial ramus. And you can also begin to explore as you do this, moving the knee more inward and doing it. Moving the knee more outward and doing it. Just go back and forth, sort of figuring out like, wow, what really gives you the best stretch for you, because it's going to be different depending on how your pelvis and legs are connected. And also try to observe, is it different from the other side? Sometimes there's quite a bit of difference in our knees. The pleasure. What gives you the most pleasure? What feels really yummy? And then you can set that foot back down, elbows out, lift your head, lengthen in your neck, letting your shoulder blades drop into the mat. And maybe letting both knees and your head go to the right and up and over to the left, rolling across the buttocks. Stop when you're back in the middle and let your right leg come up in the air. Put your hands on either side of your knee. So not on the top, but on the sides. And I want you to visualize the structures under that hand. So on the outside, you have the two hamstring tendons coming down the back, going along the side and hooking onto that little bone. You can tap the head of it, the fibula. And then on the inner side, it comes down and hooks onto the tibia, shin bone. So take a moment and drop your heel about 4 or 5 inches and then let it come back up. And try to sense with your fingertips into those tendons. Now above those tendons, you have the big quadricep muscle, the thigh muscle, and that splits toward the bottom, and on the right side and on the left side, the tendons come and they hook also onto the tibia and the fibula. See if you can put your fingers sort of a little more toward the kneecap, but still on the sides, and make your foot go up and down and sense that. This is one reason why when people have really bad knees, we often try to get them to do leg lifts and things that will strengthen the quadricep because it stabilizes the knee a bit. But it can also throw the balance off if you aren't working with the other parts of the knee. All right, place your hand, your right hand, right on top of the knee. The kneecap will fit into your palm of your hand. Place your other hand under the knee in that crease, and then just gently drop your heel and let it bounce off the back of your thigh, your butt, whatever it hits. Maybe it doesn't. And then come back up and drop it. And as you're making this hinge movement, sense and feel the tendons, the quadricep muscle, the adductors, the hamstring, the lateral hamstring especially. Then stop for a moment and just rest. And taking your hand out from the back of the knee, but keeping your right hand on top of the knee. Make some big circles with your heel. So you're circling the lower leg. But try to keep your upper leg more or less still, but you're going to feel a lot of action in those quadriceps, in those hamstrings, in those adductor tendons. If you haven't already done it, make sure your lower back is flat. And stop for a moment. Just pull the knee in toward your chest. And push it back out. And circle in the opposite direction. So if you were making clockwise circles with your heel, now you're going to make counterclockwise. Stop, pulling the knee into the chest and just resting for a moment. And release that foot back to the floor and take a moment and sense and feel into the right knee. Image the right knee. How does it compare to the left, which is clearer in your body image? And let the left leg come up in the air, putting your hands again on the sides of the knee, sensing those tendons. Dropping the foot, letting it come back up. And notice as you do that, is your lower leg coming straight down, or is your heel wanting to aberrate toward the midline or out toward the outside? And maybe even deliberately do that for a moment and sort of observe what it does in the knee, what's happening under your fingers. So if your heel's coming more toward the inside or more toward the outside, what happens in the knee, especially the lower portion of the knee, where it's for the lower leg? And stop. Just hold your knee for a moment, holding the sides, and then placing your left palm on top of your kneecap, placing your right hand under the fold of the knee. Let the foot come up and drop, and up and drop. You may hear some popping. That's not really anything to be alarmed about. It's just air releasing from the joint, which hopefully is a little stretched at this moment. Crunching, on the other hand, we're less happy about because that usually means you have floating cartilage in there. reason this movement is alarming because you don't have enough mobility in the knee. Just limit it. Let the foot drop, but catch it before it bounces off the back of your leg. And then stop. Grasping the knee with both hands, gently pulling it in toward your chest and resting. Then once more, holding the top of the knee and circling with the foot, making big circles. And again, try to observe whether the knee wants to pull inward or outward. And just do that for maybe 10 movements. And then you can also circle in the opposite direction. And stop, pulling the knee in toward the chest, letting the lower back relax, and releasing the foot to the floor. Using your thigh muscles, lift your lower spine and wrap it. Lift your head, lengthening the back of your neck, widening your elbows, letting your shoulders be down and wide. Slide the right leg out, wrap the back of the knee. Let it go. And slide the left leg out and wrap the back of the knee. And let that go. Flex both feet. And then slide the right heel down and release left heel down and go back and forth a couple times. And then let your legs go. Take a deep breath in. And as you do that, allow the breath to flow down and imagine it's filling your pelvis and the ischial, the iliac bones are spreading, pelvic floor descending, and as you exhale, your buttocks relax, your hips relax. And inhaling down, filling the pelvis, letting it widen with the breath, the pelvic floor descending. And as you exhale, releasing the heels, the backs of the knees, buttocks, the lower spine. And just keep doing that, breathing and imagining, imaging the breath expanding the pelvis, the inner thighs rolling open. And as you exhale, the legs just completely soften, sink into the floor, the buttocks. Feel the way the breath expands the pelvis. Imagine the breath flowing all the way into the inner arches. Notice as you exhale, any tension in your buttocks and the sides of your legs, the backs of your knees, releasing it as much as you can. Releasing the backs of the knees as much as you can. Then also focusing as you inhale on the chest rising, the collarbones, the shoulder joints, letting the breath flow down into the hands. And as you exhale, releasing the thumb, the pads of the thumbs, the elbows, the shoulder blades, neck, the back of the head. And inhaling. And exhaling. And just breathing. Allowing yourself to explore more space. Letting your body widen with the breath. And as you release it, letting it sink into the mat. Check out your joints as you're breathing in. Is anything still tense? If it is, when you release the breath, release that joint. Feel the way as you breathe in. Palms, the feet, activate, and as you breathe out, you can release some. Breathing into the elbows and the knees. And as you exhale, you release some. Breathing into the hips and the shoulders. Releasing them. And then just breathing. Letting your attention go wherever it needs to go. One or two more breaths. Taking a moment to appreciate your body, sending it life force. Whenever you're ready, bringing your knees up, holding on to your right side. Letting your head relax for one more moment into the floor, your shoulder, your hips, your right side. Pressing with your left palm into the mat. Let your head dangle as you come up. When you get up, you can take your right palm and gently lift your head upright on your spine. Namaste. That was good. Excuse me,
That was.
how's your
Thank you.
knee, Joseph? Up, maybe he's gone.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad. Yeah, it's amazing how poor knees slowly.
Thanks, Althea. That was amazing.
Oh, good. Well, thank you.
Oh, there's so much in that one. Got to do that one again and again.
Yes, well, I can send you.
I'll-
Oh, you know what? I keep saying this to everybody, but I finally decided, I think I have an easy way to do this. I'm gonna put all the labeled exercises into a Dropbox and I will send you all a link. Then you can go into that Dropbox and unload or download any of the ones you want. Yay.
Althea, thank you. I'll get back in touch with you about going to the theater.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks again.